Are the Broncos ready for a Monday Night Football primetime game against the Bengals? They better be. What's up, Broncos country? My name is Brandon Gilchrist. In this episode, we'll be talking a little bit about what's happening this week in the news, along with discussing the matchup with the Bengals on Monday Night Football. So, why don't we just get right into it? Sean Payton did not hesitate in backing his quarterback this week after the 3 deep missed throws against the Chargers. I have to agree with him on this. There's this thought that Bo is just overall missing or overthrowing. And there's a little bit of a story behind each of those throws, and I discussed those in the last episode. One, yes, was potentially an overthrow, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a part or a sliver of the game that really doesn't tell the entire story. And when it comes to deep throws, a 30 to 35% average in the league when it comes to completion of those types of throws. Matter of fact, I believe it was in the next series for Justin Herbert where he ultimately ended up overthrowing Quentin Johnston in the end zone towards the end of the game as well. When looking at Bo's performance, Nick Kosmider from The Athletic did an overall review of the first 3 games of the season, and deep balls was not the thing that came up. He actually said he's been performing average when it comes to throwing the deep ball in the NFL. The one thing that goes back to last season, Bo still needs to be working on, that is how he handles pressure. Anytime Bo experiences pressure, this is when his completion percentage not only drops, but you've seen the interceptions happen when he gets pressured. He has 0 touchdowns. So for him, settling down, and this is one of the things that I've definitely noticed over the first 3 weeks of the season, is Bo Nix looks tense. I said this after the first game. He looks tense. He looks like he's pressing. It almost seems like he's put the entire success of the team on his shoulders alone, when that couldn't be further from the truth. When we're talking about football, it is an ultimate team sport. And that means all 11 people have to be doing their job. And that is the beauty and frustration of this game. And I hope that the team is helping him with removing some of that pressure and some of that weight that I think he's carrying around, which is forcing him to press, which is forcing him to have happy feet, which is forcing him to run into pressure at times instead of settling his feet to throw the ball. In other news, the Broncos were very active in the community this week. Trent Sherfield, our special teams ace and wide receiver, was the Week 4 NFL Players Association Community MVP. He helped provide essential baby items for Denver families in need. Nick Bonito also launched the Bonito Family Foundation on his birthday this week, where they provide food for families in need. Throughout October, the foundation, along with partnering with Safeway, are actually going to be delivering food to families in need for every single sack that the Broncos get in the month of October. So here's for a really good month of sacking the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. This is great to see, especially after Week 1 when Garrett Bowles was named the Week 1 NFL Players Association Community MVP, where he and his wife established a foundation for children with ataxia. In other news, per Seth Walden of ESPN, the Broncos actually did some hiring in their staff as well this week, hiring a senior data analyst, Mayapin Sabaya. He was a data analytics person working for the NFL and is now coming to the Broncos. Looking at his history, he seems to do a lot of work around player performance. I would look for him to not only help with preparation when it comes to week-to-week matchups for the team, but I also think he's probably going to help when it comes to just the overall data analytics and experience for anything driving the organization going forward. I know personally the Broncos send out a ton of different surveys. They're constantly looking at gathering information to help make the organization better in a ton of different facets, not just on the football field. So I'm not surprised to see a hire like this and expect it to make an impact immediately. All right, let's talk about this matchup. The Broncos face the Bengals after coming off of their worst loss in franchise history. A 48-10 drubbing by the Minnesota Vikings. They will be looking for redemption. They will be looking for some payback and to hopefully use this Monday night matchup to right the ship. Jake Browning steps in at QB after Joe Burrow experienced a severe turf toe injury that had him undergo surgery. Last week, his first performance unfortunately did not go his way. So far this season, Browning has thrown 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in just 2 games. Looking at the rest of the offense, you've got dynamic playmakers in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and also Chase Brown historically. Jamar Chase also had a tough week. He caught 5 balls for 50 yards, but had a fumble. T. Higgins was almost non-existent on the field, unfortunately for the Bengals. 1 catch for 15 yards. I'm sure the wide receiver unit is going to be looking to really step it up this week, especially after a great matchup last year with Broncos and Bengals, where T. Higgins and Jamar Chase went off. So I guarantee they're going to be looking to try to do that again against this Broncos defense. Looking at Chase Brown, he's going to be looking to build on this year's performance because it has not started well for him. Right now he is averaging 2 yards a carry, which is abysmal when it comes to the running back room. So with this Broncos team and the challenges it's had at running back, I would imagine they're going to test that swing pass effort to try to get their running game going, and the Broncos better be ready. We'll also see some familiar faces this week when it comes to Dalton Reisner on the offensive line, Noah Fant at tight end, and Samaje Perine in the running back backfield. Noah Fant also coming off of last week with 5 catches. He also fumbled the ball. Frankly, you saw a ton of turnovers in last week's game, which is why it ended up being a 48-10 result. For Samaje Perine, he had 4 carries before fumbling the ball himself as well and exiting the game with a wrist injury. All of this group will be looking to bounce back. The offensive line itself has struggled. They already are going without their starting left guard and starting right guard. This line is looking to find chemistry and find symmetry to be able to help protect Browning and get this running game going. But that can't happen this week. Taking a quick look at the defense, you have that dynamic playmaker in Trey Hendrickson. His season so far has been a slow start as well. 0 sacks in the game against the Minnesota Vikings. He was the one who was going head-to-head with Nick Bonito last year when it came to leading the league in sacks. Though he didn't get his payday, he did get a raise and will be looking to build on his performance from the 2024 season. Overall, the Bengals defense has 3 sacks this season. Bo Nix is a tough sack, so we'll see if they'll be able to get him on the ground during this week's matchup. Now let's look at the Broncos. Starting with the defense, Next Gen Stats says that the Broncos pressured Herbert 54.7% of his dropbacks. That's elite. That's ridiculous. Last week, the defense sacked Herbert 5 times. I know they're looking at this matchup this week with the offensive line and the struggles that the Bengals are having. Jake Browning, a backup quarterback, being behind center. They have to be licking their chops when it comes to this matchup this week. And I would imagine they're going to send the house on him. Another interesting statistic, Riley Moss right now, who, when you look at social media and sort of the news this week, Broncos country seems to be out for Riley Moss. But again, I reiterate, Riley Moss has Pat Surtain on the other side of the field. He is going to be the option for a lot of quarterbacks when it comes to throwing the ball. If Pat Surtain is eliminating one half of the field, the quarterback still has to throw the ball. And that means looking at their second option or the other side of the field, and that's where Riley Moss comes in. Despite Riley Moss being the most targeted cornerback in the NFL right now, quarterbacks only have a 48% completion rate against him. That's incredible, and Riley Moss deserves some respect. Along the defensive line, Nick Bonito and Zach Allen lead the league right now with pressures. Allen has 10, Nick Bonito has 9 pressures. The Broncos also lead the league, once again, in sacks with 12. Unfortunately for the Bengals, the whole entire offense seems to be struggling, and I guarantee this defense isn't going to want to be the matchup when the Bengals offense finally finds their stride. They will take pride in shutting down this offense. Taking a look at the Broncos offense, this is an opportunity to find some consistency once again. When we look at the last 2 offensive drives for the last 2 games, the matchup against the Chargers and the matchup against the Colts, the Broncos had an interception and a missed field goal for their last 2 drives. Against the Chargers, the Broncos had 2 3-and-outs. Those closing game possessions is really the area of opportunity for the Broncos overall. An amazing statistic that's out there right now is the Broncos have led through time expiration in the fourth quarter their last 2 games, but have lost. That shouldn't be possible, but that's where we are. The Broncos are going to have to clean up their closing game offensive possessions to really solidify themselves as a legitimate playoff team this year. Another area of opportunity for them is their early down success. One of the things coming out of last week's game against the Chargers was the fact that the Broncos averaged on third down 3rd and 10. It is incredibly hard to find success if on third down you're averaging an entire down and distance. Early down success for the Broncos right now is about 32%. Now what that means is your early downs on your first down, you should be trying to obtain 4 to 6 yards on first down. After that, on second down, you should be trying to obtain 3 to 4 yards so that you have third and short when it comes to third down. The Broncos right now have not had much success at all, clearly, on first and second down. This is also a huge area of opportunity for the offense. And they'll have their opportunity against a defense that hasn't been able to generate pressure and also hasn't been able to really stop anyone when it comes to the passing game. Week after week, I feel like I'm pounding the table for the running game to see more touches and see more carries. Statistically, it seems like the Broncos have a balanced attack, but it's really not the case when you actually watch the games. It seems like if you run on first or second down and it gets a yard or two, Sean Payton instantly goes to the pass, making up ground, which ironically is funny because if a pass is incomplete, you haven't actually achieved any yards at all. Making sure that the team is leaning on the run game, especially in the closing moments of the game, where last week it seemed like we still continued to throw the ball instead of handing the ball off to J.K. Dobbins, who was having a great day. The Broncos have an opportunity to really run the ball and commit to the run this week. J.K. Dobbins right now is averaging 5.4 yards a carry. There are health concerns around him running the ball too much, but that's where we can leverage our rookie RJ Harvey to also help complement and continue to run the ball. He only had 1 carry in week 3, and that just, frankly, isn't acceptable at this point. We need to see both RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins run the ball throughout the game all the way to its conclusion. Looking at our receiving core, it seems like there's a featured receiver and then everybody else disappears. The first week it was Court, the second week it was Troy Franklin, and then the third week it was Cortland Sutton. Unfortunately, nobody else really stood out when you look at the receiving core the first 3 weeks. It would be great if the ball distribution could tick up a bit. Let's see Mims get involved. Let's see Troy Franklin get involved. Let's see all 3 eat this week. The other piece that's a huge opportunity is it does look like Evan Ingram is on track to play in this game. Would love to see such a dynamic playmaker actually get an opportunity to show his abilities this week. Now let's look at the health reports for both teams, starting with the Bengals. Noah Fant, after a concussion against the Vikings, is not practicing this week. It's still up in the air because injury reports are unique when there's Monday Night Football. The first report doesn't come out until Thursday. Then there's a Friday and Saturday report. So at this point, it's unclear if Noah Fant's going to be active in playing for this game since there is technically an extra day of rest for the team. Everybody else in the injury report for the Bengals seems to be on track to play, but we'll see. For the Broncos, we did see Evan Ingram on the report, but he practiced fully, which is positive and hopeful for him to be able to step on the field on Monday night. I think this could be a great opportunity for a big game for Evan Ingram. In terms of transactions for the Broncos, fullback Adam Prentice was elevated to the 53-man roster after a spot was opened up with putting Dre Greenlaw on injured reserve. Additionally, the Broncos worked out a bunch of DBs and wide receivers and ultimately ended up signing A.J. Woods to the practice squad. He was previously on the Eagles practice squad all of last year. You know, the tinfoil hat side of me says they're looking for insights on the Eagles, which we have as a matchup next week, but we'll see. When it comes to the Broncos this week, y'all, I expect the Broncos to settle down the panic that is happening in Broncos country right now. Sean Payton's teams historically start slow, and this goes back to his time in New Orleans. If you can understand that Sean loves to test out different personnel, different formations, different substitutions in the first few weeks of the season to really find what's working and how teams are planning on defending his team, He then comes out and finds stride in week 4, week 5, and on. That's what I'm expecting here with week 4 this week, especially with the favorable matchup that the Broncos have at home. I've continued to talk about the 4-week ramp up for this team, and though there were some frustrating moments in week 3 and we didn't see the consistency we were looking for, my expectation is that we do see all 3 phases perform well this week. It's a favorable matchup. The team should win handily. This should be the start of something good for this team. While the Bengals may be looking for some redemption after their performance from last week, they're going to have to wait another week to bounce back because the Broncos are going to take care of business. I'm looking forward to being at this game and just experiencing the atmosphere on Monday night prime time. Broncos are also going to be wearing their midnight navy jerseys for the first time this year. I think we'll see either all blue or we'll see blue with white pants and blue socks, which would be my personal favorite. Let me know how you're feeling about the game. Do you see the Broncos bouncing back this week and putting on a great performance? Let me know in the comments. And as always, be kind. I'll talk to you soon, Broncos country.